I like to think about positive nutrition. You know, we hear so much about the things that we have to take away, and I really like to think about the things that we should be adding to our food so that we're not feeling like we're missing out on things. You know, so life is about balance, and I think it's about all the good things that you can add. So I've put together a few slides because I find that a nice way to speak over Zoom. So I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully that will work. But don't feel like this has to be a lecture. It's just so that I can keep focused. Otherwise, I'd probably talk to you all night about nutrition. So I'm hoping you can all hear me okay. And obviously, I think you can put questions in the chat box as well. That's another thing that you can do. I don't know if that's activated. Great. So just a little bit about me. So I have worked as a nutritional therapist for over a decade. I work in my private clinic, but I've also done quite a lot of work with organisations like the Big C, various cancer charities as well, just giving really practical advice that you can start to put into practice straight away. And I think that's the key thing. You know, really small changes can really add up. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the benefits of good nutrition and a little bit about how to eat, because sometimes we hear so much about what we should be eating, but actually how you eat. And what I mean by that is, yes, I'm talking about how you chew, but also actually what you combine together when you eat. It's really important. I'll talk about some key nutrients pre and post surgery. I mean, that topic is vast, but I'm going to try and focus on a few key things that you might find really helpful, particularly getting enough protein and enough healthy fats. I think that's something that people often don't think about. And if your digestive system's a little bit imbalanced from surgery or from some treatment, sometimes that can feel a little bit difficult to eat more protein. So I'll give you some practical tips on that. And just really about achieving a healthy balance. You know, people often ask me, so how many vegetables and fruits should I be eating every day? So 5 a day is kind of a good target, but there's kind of a minimum actually, and we should be eating a little bit more than that. Most people don't, but I really want to encourage you to be thinking about always that, what can I add? And that rainbow eating as well, so not always eating the same vegetables and fruit. And just a thought about some quick meals and snacks that you can prepare, whether you're going in for surgery or treatment, or just for the long term, you know, to make your life easy. And then we'll open up for some questions. And I've got my phone next to me for time because it takes off my phone. Actually, my phone has just literally just run out of battery, Carolyn. So you might just want to give me a little heads up, maybe when I've got 10 minutes to go or something. So I've got no clock in here, so yeah, otherwise we'll be here till tomorrow if I keep talking. So let's get going. So just to mention that we are all different, right? So you are all biochemically unique, and you know, you all might have been told different things to eat by oncologists, by your GP, for various reasons, by surgeons. So obviously do follow that advice. What I'm giving you today is general advice, so you may have different specific needs. Okay, so obviously, you know, do listen to the advice that you've been given medically. So what is a healthy diet? So I've already mentioned that, you know, I'm a big believer in balance. So, you know, we tend to hear about all the naughty foods and the things that we shouldn't eat, but actually you can really balance that stuff out. I think, you know, yes, it's not great to eat lots of sugar. And I think one of the problems with sugar is that it's become such a normal part of our everyday foods, right? People eat sugar all the time, whereas actually sugar is fine to eat as long as it's in moderation. And that's kind of the balance, right? It's about eating as well as you can 85 to 90% of the time, and the rest will kind of take care of itself. I mean, that's the same when we think about things like a bit of red wine, you know, a little bit of a cake and biscuit, and, you know, actually we should enjoy those things, but really trying not to replace your meals with those things. So when you're hungry at lunchtime, that's not the time to eat a piece of cake and a coffee, actually trying to get real food. And then you could have something like that, you know, once or even twice a week. Yeah? So it's about that balance. And I really believe that, you know, food, it should be a feast for our eyes, you know, and you can make really lovely, lovely food quite simply, and just, you know, getting colour and variety and not eating the same foods all the time. The typical British diet is quite brown and beige, isn't it? It's not typically like what you're seeing on the screen. And I think that's a really nice thing that you could potentially take from the talk that I'm giving now, that actually, thinking about a rainbow and trying to get more colour and variety on your plate. So why do we need good nutrition? I think that's a really, really important question, and just to remember, because sometimes I think, particularly when life is busy or we're feeling a lot of stress or we're feeling worried about our health, food is just something that we do. Yeah, we must eat, right? We've got to eat to stay alive. We've got to eat for those calories. But there's a huge difference between calories which are empty calories and calories which are nutrient dense. So those calories that have vitamins and minerals and all your macronutrients that you need. So let's just think about why we need good nutrition. When I talk about nutrition, it's vitamins, it's minerals, it's protein, it's fat, it's carbohydrates, right? And we need healthy food to support our brain health and to support our mood. Yeah, actually what we eat can have an impact on our thoughts and how we manage stress, our immune health and balance and repair post-surgery. Really, really important. Yeah, if we don't have enough protein and amino acids and nutrients like zinc, it's more difficult for our body to heal and repair. Food can help us to be in more of an anti-inflammatory state as well, and obviously that's really critical, pre and post surgery, but also long term. It can really help with our hormone balance. It can help with our energy levels, and we want sustained energy, don't we? We don't want those kind of big spikes up and down. And actually also our ability to sleep. So eating the wrong foods and not enough of the good stuff, particularly before bedtime, can have an impact on our ability to sleep. And obviously sleep is such an important restorative process. We also need good nutrition for our bones, for our skin, for our hair, teeth, nails, hormones I've mentioned already. Like all this stuff, this doesn't grow, right, without good nutrition. It's really, really important. So kind of everything that you are in your body, in your mind, comes from the food that you eat. We often just kind of forget that really simple connection, but we are, our body is made from good nutrients, right? So really important to think about what we can be adding to our diet. And it's not just what you eat that's really important, actually thinking about when you eat and how you eat and how much and variety as well. Yeah. So, I see people a lot, we read somewhere, it's really good to eat blueberries. So that's the only fruit that you eat kind of for 3 months until you move on to something else, right? We read those stories, don't we, in the papers and online and whatever we're reading. Yeah. So variety is really, really important. And we hear about this term superfoods a lot, but your everyday ingredients like broccoli and kale and blueberries, yes, they're great for you. Other kinds of berries, all kinds of different fruits and vegetables, they really are those everyday superfoods. And I want to teach you a little bit about when to eat and how to eat as well. So it's really not great for us to be eating right through to the night, because that can affect our ability to sleep. But one of the really useful things I find with people is teaching you about blood sugar balance. And most of my clients in my clinics, I teach them about blood sugar balance. So when I mention blood sugar balance, that isn't, obviously blood sugar balance is relevant for diabetics, but that doesn't mean you're diabetic, right? We all have swings in our blood sugar. So when we eat, our blood sugar does that nice little rise up that you see on this graph, and our body responds by releasing a little bit of insulin. We have a nice gentle drop off of blood sugar, and then we start to feel hungry. Yeah, that's basically what happens when we eat with regards to glucose in our blood, no matter what you're eating. Yeah. And we want these gentle fluctuations throughout the day. So why is this important? Well, the kind of blood sugar swings that we're trying to avoid is this kind of blood sugar swings. So when our blood sugar drops, yeah, that's when we start craving all the wrong foods. And actually when we start craving all the wrong foods and we have that lower blood sugar and those drops of blood sugar, our body starts releasing more stress hormones, right? And that burns up essential nutrients. And actually those stress hormones, they make our stress load bigger. So if you're going to surgery, you're already about to put your body through quite, significant stress. And if our blood sugar is swinging all over the place, and then we think about our recovery and your long-term health, yeah, it's really important to think about managing your blood sugar. So when we eat really sweet things, when we eat not enough protein, when we don't have enough healthy fats, when we eat just white carbohydrates like white bread and things like that, and there may be times when you have been told to eat just more white carbs, because there are times with certain treatments and before certain surgeries that they want you to have a lower fiber diet. And of course, that's perfectly relevant. But for the longer term picture, we want things that give us that more sustainable blood sugar rather than those big swings up and down. Yeah. Have you ever experienced that time when you've had a coffee and a piece of cake and you feel quite fuzzy, and then all of a sudden you've like got this real energy slump? I don't know if any of you ever experienced that. And that is your blood sugar rising, just like you see on this graph, and that big drop down. Yeah. So it's a little bit about how to eat, and we just want to avoid those blood sugar crashes, yeah, because what that does is that puts our body in a state of stress. It makes us crave all the wrong foods, and it makes us feel like we're not as balanced and as grounded as as we would like. So there are symptoms of blood sugar imbalance, and that includes dizziness and tiredness, irritability, mood swings, crying spells, poor concentration, forgetfulness, headaches, sugar, carb, and caffeine cravings, difficulty sleeping, poor stress management, clumsiness. So kind of things that you don't really want to be exacerbating when you're trying to get ready for surgery or post-surgery, or recovering from treatment, or just supporting your long-term health, or if you're going through hormonal swings and things like that. Yeah. So it's really easy to balance your blood sugar. The bear is there, by the way, because actually blood sugar swings, it's a really primal response. It's like when our blood sugar's dropping, that's what hangriness is, right? That's the hangry thing that people often describe. So it's often caused by our blood sugar dropping, and then us releasing more stress hormones, which puts us in that primal state. So really simple way to eat, and I've sent Carolyn a copy of these, some of these documents, which you can print off. You're very welcome to print off and stick on your fridge or something like that. How I like to think about it is trying to get about 25% of your plate. So just think about actually when you eat, trying to have a fistful of protein with your main meals. Yeah, so that's that top right bit. Yeah. And then trying to balance that out with your carbohydrates, and then trying to fill half your plate with vegetables, salad, a little bit of fruit. Yeah, we don't want to overdo our fruit, but little bits of fruit also really important. Yeah. So often, if you think about how we eat, like a lot of people tend to have maybe a whole plate of white pasta, very little vegetables, not enough protein. And protein is really important. That good quality protein is really important for helping us to heal and repair. It really helps to keep your blood sugar nice and balanced. Yeah. You may be trying to follow a more vegetarian or vegan diet, and that's absolutely fine. And you can get good protein sources on a vegan or vegetarian diet. But it's not, you can't just take the meat out and hope for the best, right? You've got to replace it. Yeah. So obviously, if you are eating meat, fish, seafood, they are good sources of protein. And we don't need to eat meat and fish all the time. There's lots of other sources of protein if you're not vegetarian or vegan. Yeah. I believe in a flexitarian approach, right? Eating a little bit of everything. We don't all have to be vegetarian or vegan, but if you are, that's great. Yeah. If you like to eat meat, fish, dairy, try some vegetarian meals sometimes. Yeah, when I say about that fistful of protein, you maybe can combine different proteins to make up that fistful of protein as well. Yeah. So eggs, good quality dairy, nuts and seeds. You probably wouldn't have a whole handful of nuts and seeds. That's just the only bit where there's a slight variety, because obviously very nutrient dense, very calorie dense. So nuts and seeds might be something you add for a bit of protein and combine with other proteins. Beans and pulses, so like your chickpeas at the top there, lentils, that kind of thing. Quinoa, I don't know if any of you ever use quinoa, or quinoa as it's often called. Really good source of protein, nice and slow releasing. Buckwheat is another one, and some people use protein powders. You don't have to, but some people make a protein drinks and things like that, and they can be quite useful. Like if you are recovering from surgery and don't feel like eating, it can be a useful way to get in a little bit of protein as well. And I believe that, you know, we can make really simple changes and actually create quite big results. In my experience of work, I worked with over 1,000 clinics, 1,000 clients in my one-to-one clinic over 10 years. And actually, when you work on balancing your blood sugar, it's one of the things that can make quite a profound change in terms of you know, how you feel, in terms of your energy levels and your ability to manage stress and your ability to sleep and things like that. Yeah, so quality protein, nice slow releasing carbohydrates. So what I mean by that, use your whole grains. Yeah, so it's things like jacket potatoes with skins on, it's things like your sweet potatoes, it's brown rice rather than white, it's whole grain bread rather than white, you know, it's looking at those nice slow releasing carbs rather than the white carbs, whole grain pasta. You can get also really nice like bean and lentil pastas now, which are popping up in the supermarkets. And then healthy fats also help us to feel full for longer. And if you crowd out your food with all that good stuff, you're less likely then to have cravings for the less healthy foods, if you like. Another really good tip there as well is, if you know, if you are going for your coffee and your cake, for example, if you have a little bit of protein with it, that will also help to keep your blood sugar more balanced. You then don't crave the wrong things later. Yeah, so whenever I make a cake at home, I'm always putting ground almonds in it. Or if I know that I'm going to go out for something sweeter, I might make sure I've eaten some protein before, and it might be as simple as a small handful of nuts or something like that. So that's blood sugar balance. So key nutrients pre and post surgery that I just wanted to talk about. So protein I've covered quite a lot, and try not to stick to always the same proteins as well. Vitamin D is really important for supporting our immunity as well. There is some evidence that it might protect us against COVID as well, so really important. And where do we get the vitamin D from? Well, the sunshine. So actually right now is the moment that most of us are likely to be most deficient in vitamin D, because we've just come out of winter. Yeah. So actually it is recommended, certain groups do supplement vitamin D right through the winter, and I generally recommend it for most people. Obviously, if you're on any medication and you want to take vitamins and minerals, then, or having any treatment, then you definitely should ask your consultant or your GP first before taking. It can interact with some medication, but generally it's a really safe nutrient to take. Vitamin C is also a really important one. It's really important for healing because we make collagen from vitamin C, and really important for our immunity as well. Again, some links with protecting us against COVID, and we don't store vitamin C. So that's why fresh vegetables and fruit are really important to be getting on a daily basis. Yeah. And we're only going to absorb a certain amount of vitamin C. So if you only have your vitamin C in the morning, that's the only time you have some fruit or vegetables, for example, and then you don't have any later in the day, you're only going to absorb a certain amount. Someone just asked how we cook our vegetables, i.e. steam or stir fry. So the thing is with vegetables is avoid boiling them, right? So avoid boiling them in water really hard, because a lot of the nutrients do leach out. But there is a question, a lot of people ask me, should I have raw or cooked? A combination of both is actually really important, because sometimes by cooking vegetables, we actually release some nutrients. So we actually break down the cell walls. So vitamin C is one of the nutrients that is destroyed by heating. So it's why it's important to have some raw, yeah. But having a combination is also quite good. So we release some of our antioxidants quite a bit better, like when we actually cook some of our greens, yeah. So I think having a combination is good. So steaming and stir fry is really good. When you stir fry, you can also do something called steam fry, which is where you put a bit of water in your, if you're like in a wok, put a lid on, and that keeps the temperature down a little bit, because cooking at very high temperatures isn't actually a great thing to do. I hope that's answered your question. So zinc. Zinc is involved in over 500 enzymatic reactions in our body. It's a really, really important nutrient. So we get zinc from animal foods. So if you are a vegetarian or vegan, you need to be mindful of making sure that you replace your zinc. So red meat particularly is high in zinc. So also fish and seafood, oysters, right? They're really high. Not many people eat oysters, but just thought I'd mention them. They're one of the highest foods. But you can get really high zinc levels in whole grains. Things like pumpkin seeds, pecan nuts particularly, are really, really high in zinc. So there are lots of different food sources that you can get. And I just want to touch on healthy fats as well. So some people are, we heard for many years, didn't we, that we should all be eating low fat, but it's about getting the right fat. So our brain is 60% fat, and every single cell in our body has fat in the membranes. The membrane's like the wall around the cell that keeps things like the nucleus and the mitochondria. And if you think back to your science lessons at school, yeah, cells are drawn around and they have that lovely wall on, yeah? So that cell wall really does need good healthy fats, and by having good healthy fats in every cell wall, that helps with transport into our cells and getting toxins out. So healthy fats are really, really important. I'm going to touch on those in a moment. Here we go, it's my next slide. So there's lots of different types of healthy fats. So the good fats that we need to be really mindful of are omega-3 fats. So we need to get lots of omega-3s in our diet because they are our anti-inflammatory fats. And most people don't get enough omega-3 and they get too much omega-6. Omega-6 is good for us, but too much can make us a bit more inflammatory rather than anti-inflammatory, yeah? And inflammation is a perfectly normal response in our immune system. Yes, if you bang your ankle, twist your ankle, it inflames, right? And that's the healing response. The problem is when we have inflammation in our body and it doesn't go down and it's chronic inflammation, that's what we don't want. We want to be helping to reduce inflammation in our body. So omega-3s come from things like oily fish. Most people don't eat enough oily fish, and I think good quality fish is becoming more difficult to get in, and thinking about the sustainability of it. But oily fish includes salmon, herring, mackerel, trout, seafood, sardines. So one of your cheapest sources of oily fish is a good old tin of sardines. They are so high in calcium, which is really, really great for women, particularly later in life when we've gone through the menopause and we start thinking about our bone density, because you need good calcium. So all the little bones that you get in tin sardines, yeah, we should be eating those because they're really, really good source of calcium. Yeah, it's one of the cheapest ways to get omega-3s in our diet. I know sardines are a bit of a Marmite, they're kind of a love or hate them type thing, but really, really good. Mackerel, you can get really good tin mackerel, smoked mackerel. Just be careful with smoked fish if you have high blood pressure, because obviously it's a bit higher in salt, but really easy way to get some in. Salmon again, smoked salmon's a really good way to get more omega-3s in. Nuts and seeds, particularly if you're vegetarian or vegan, you do need to make sure that you're eating some nuts and seeds, but we can all benefit from nuts and seeds. Not the ones that you get on the bar in the pub, right? Occasionally they're fine, but that's not the healthy ones. It's the unsalted, unroasted nuts and seeds that you get in the bags in the shop and supermarkets and things like that. Actually, places like Aldi are a really good source of getting things like that because they tend to have really good value nuts and seeds, because obviously they can be a little bit expensive. But the thing is like nuts and seeds are really filling, and so you don't actually need that much. My advice is, if you're going to have nuts and seeds, which we all should really be having, is to portion a small amount off. Yeah, so put a little amount in a bowl. Don't sit with the whole bag in front of the TV before you know it. I'm always telling my husband about this, like he'll eat a whole bag of cashew nuts, right? So, small amounts of nuts and seeds are really good for us, yeah? Ones that are particularly good for omega-3s are chia seeds, so those little tiny black seeds, and also flaxseed, also known as linseeds, and you can buy them as little ground up sprinkles that you can sprinkle over your cereals and things like that, or into porridge. Is really, really nice. Put them in yogurt, put them in smoothies. It's a really good way to get omega-3s in there. And they're great for keeping your bowel movement. It's really healthy to have a good, healthy bowel movement. So if you're a little bit constipated post-surgery, that's another good way to get your bowel moving. Dark green leafy veg, also a good source of omega-3s as well. So that's things like broccoli, kale, spinach. I mean, they are your superfoods again. They're your answer to everything. Other healthy fats might include things like olive oil, avocados, eggs, They have some omega-3s, particularly for chickens are free range, really good source of choline as well, which is one of your B vitamins, fat soluble nutrients as well. So really, really important to get them in. So just don't fry your eggs if you're having eggs. I mean, the occasional fried egg, fine, but generally better, because that's when the cholesterol gets oxidized, and that's when it can be difficult for our cholesterol levels. Yeah. Good. I think I missed a question, and I don't know if that was Carolyn checking me in on time, but I saw it. Oh, there it goes. Let's just see. Great. Yeah. So a lot of people ask me as well about how much a day we should be having in terms of our vegetable and fruits. UK government stance is still 5 a day. The reason they're sticking with 5 a day is because most people don't eat 5 a day. So they just can't put it up, right? Because most people are not even hitting 5 a day. Really low levels of fruit and veg consumption in our country. Actually, we should be probably getting more like 7 a day, potentially even 10 a day. I mean, I don't know how many of you are getting kind of more towards 10 a day, but once you start thinking about it in those terms, it's actually a lot easier than you think it is going to be. But, I know the thought of more broccoli at sometimes my children's face to me, if I like, let's eat more broccoli. But getting in your vegetables, particularly. Actually, the Australian government, they have their campaign is 5+2, 5 veg, 2 vegetables, 2 fruit a day, and that's about the right balance. So 5, 6, 7 veg, 2 or 3 fruits a day. And all different colours, really, really important to be getting all different colours in. And particularly, when we're talking about female hormonal health, female, estrogen balance and things like that, it's about getting those greens in, yeah, dark green leafy veg, really, really, really important for your health, yeah, because they drive detoxification through our liver, yeah. So broccoli, kale, purple sprouting broccoli, your cauliflowers, sprouts, cabbage, those kind of things, just trying to get those greens in. So let me give you a little bit of an example of how to get more vegetables in. So if you're a scrambled egg eater for breakfast, you might just chop up some kale and chuck that in, or courgettes you could put into your scrambled eggs. Mushrooms, that's 2 veg already, right? It's just habit. Then if you're hungry mid-morning, you might have a carrot dumped into some hummus. That's another veg, that's 3. If you have salad for lunch, you can put 3 or 4 veg in. So lettuce plus grated carrot plus some radish plus maybe a chopped vegetables. So chopped apples, sorry. So we're then maybe at 6, 7 a day. So kind of, we're not even at our evening meal yet. You add 3 vegetables with your evening meal, you've hit your 10 a day. So actually, when you break it down like that, 10 a day sounds like, wow, that's loads. But actually, if you get into the habit of always adding your vegetables and a little bit of fruit, even as simple as, if you are a shredded eater at breakfast, chuck a handful of blueberries in it, or chop up an apple and put that on. It's 1 fruit you already got ticked off, right? So just starting from where you are, and if you don't eat much vegetable and fruit now, don't worry if you're not going to get to 10. And actually, if you're on a 2 a day, I definitely wouldn't suggest you suddenly go to 10, because you'll know about it. You'll be really windy. Your gut has got to get used to it, yeah? So go up slowly. So if you're at 6, 7, maybe add 1 more. So just thinking all the time about those things that you can add. So cruciferous veg I've talked about, and this is a really simple thing, making up your own coleslaw with carrots and cabbage is often what I make, and just have that. You can keep that in the fridge for a few days. And also these vegetables, really, really good for our gut microbiome, and our gut microbiome is really important for our immune strength. So things like onions and garlic and leeks and celery, really working on those are the basis for most meals, yeah, and incorporating those every day, unless your digestive system doesn't like them, because not everyone's does like garlic and onions. Yes, so do what's right for your body. So another little chart I've sent to Carolyn that you're very, very welcome to use, which is a rainbow, right? And this is something for those of you that have families that you can do together. So the idea being that, it's not just the quantity of vegetables and fruit that you eat, it's the variety. And the reason we want that variety of all the different pigments is because all those pigments are antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory. So your purples and your blueberries, well, it's not blue, is it? It's purple in your blueberries, to, you know, your green in your, if you've got green grapes, to, you know, red and a red onion. Yeah, so just trying to get all those different colors. So you can tick off each day, you know, all those different colors that you're eating, and trying to eat every single color of the rainbow every single day. And your gut microbiome that I just mentioned likes all those colors. So it's not just your fiber in your food, it's all those different pigments that you get in your food. Helps to increase the variety of your gut microbiome, which is really, really important for your immune health, for managing and having a healthy weight and reducing risk of type 2 diabetes, for balancing inflammation, for supporting your immune system. So many, many factors that your gut microbiome do play an important role in. Good. Just try to add fruit and vegetables to everything that you eat, and look at every meal and snack as an opportunity to add more goodness. Yeah. So if you look at your meals, whatever you're having, whether you're really tired and, you know, that day you're having a ready meal, you can always add a handful of frozen peas to it. You know, or if you've got a meal that you've got you normally have 2 veg with, maybe you could have 3, right? And just chuck an extra veg in the steamer. So just always looking at a way to add more goodness. If you're just, you know, if you like Rice Krispies for breakfast, put some blueberries and some ground flaxseed on it. If you have a sandwich for lunch, turn it to whole grain sandwich. Make sure you've got good protein in there, and add a handful of spinach in as, or some lettuce. If you normally eat a biscuit in the afternoon and you like that, have your biscuit, but have an apple with it, or a handful of nuts. If you normally have a mid-morning, piece of chocolate, maybe swap it for dark chocolate and have a handful of Brazil nuts with it. Yeah. So there's just always really simple swaps that you can make to really, really enhance how much goodness comes in there. Yeah. So I'm just going to see where we're at in terms of my slides, because I just want to prioritize. I think we're nearly there actually. So if it's okay with you time-wise, I'll carry on for another 5 minutes. Is that good? Yeah. There we go. So just think about adding vegetables and fruit to everything that you eat. So you can grate vegetables into sauces, stews and mash, right? So I put courgettes into every bolognese that I make, but I use a lemon zester for those of you that have got young kids, because my kids say they don't like courgettes, but they've eaten them 3 times a week. And they're now nearly teenagers. So, you know, just hide them in, right? And if you don't like them, that's not a good way to hide them in. Add a piece of fruit or veg to your breakfast. Make healthy desserts based around fruit. You know, out of fashion baked apples, aren't they? But they are an amazing thing. You know, baked apples are so easy to make. You just take the core out, shove a little bit of dried fruit and chopped nuts, and maybe a little bit of cinnamon, and maybe a little bit of really, you know, half a teaspoon of dark brown sugar in the middle, and chuck it in the oven while you're eating the meal. And, you know, it's a lovely, lovely dessert to have with some yogurt or something like that. You know, you can base your meals around fruit, your desserts around fruit. You can chuck on a handful of nuts or seeds, or snack on some nuts and seeds. You can add some beans and pulses, you know, that will up your vegetable content. So, you know, quite often when I make spaghetti bolognese, there's a tin of chickpeas in there, and I use less meat, and that adds protein and that adds fiber as well. Snack on vegetable sticks and a piece of fruit, maybe with a handful of nuts. And when's the last time you tried something new? We all get in food ruts. I think COVID's done that to us, hasn't it? So, you know, actually adding something new, like a vegetable that you've not eaten since you were a child and thought you didn't like, you know, or a fruit that you've seen in the supermarket, or a nut that you haven't tried. When's the last time you ate a pecan or a pistachio, or a pumpkin seed, for example? Who's eaten Brazil nuts in the last week? Really good source of selenium, which is such a good detoxifier. When's the last time you had a fresh mango or a pineapple? Yeah. What if you always eat green grapes? Sometimes eat red grapes. You know, the really dark pigment grapes. You know, just think about really simple changes just to add some more variety. When's the last time you ate an avocado? Yeah. So, you know, really thinking about positive nutrition. What's the veg that I could add? What's the fruit that I could have? Maybe I could put some healthy fats in there. Maybe I could use some herbs and spices, which have all kinds of medicinal properties. Turmeric, you've probably heard about, but all our kind of common everyday herbs like parsley, coriander, basil, which is coming into season, is really, really good, packed with nutrition. Parsley, it used to be that we put it on all our food in the 80s, right? It's so full of calcium and iron, yeah? So really, really nutritious. And we tend to put half a teaspoon, right? But you can have whole handfuls of parsley, chop it up and throw it into, soups and risottos and stews and stir fries, just really using abundant amounts of fresh herbs. And a glass of water. And why I just wanted to add that on the end there, just to remind you to drink enough fluids. Yeah, it's really, really important. It flushes any toxins out of our body. So really important post-surgery when you've perhaps had extra medication and things like that. And it's important as the summer comes in to make sure you get enough fluids. We don't want to overhydrate, but 1.5 litres to 2 litres of water or herbal teas count in there as well, to really keep yourself hydrated. And that improves our brain health as well. And just a final note, when you're coming out of surgery, to be gentle on the digestion. Yeah, if you've had a general anaesthetic, your digestive system might need a little bit of love. A lot of people find that they might get constipated, particularly if you've had pain relieving medication for anything. So the first thing to get in your bowel moving, and I'm sorry to talk to you on a Thursday night about bowel movement, but actually we clear out of our gut, and there's nothing worse than feeling like backed up, right? So often it can be a bit of a sign of maldigestion and not chewing your food properly. So chew, yeah, take time to eat. Often we eat really fast, yeah, and actually we absorb our nutrition better when we chew properly. What's the point of adding all this beautiful goodness to our food if we don't absorb it? And how can we absorb it? By properly chewing. We should chew each mouthful about 20 to 30 times. And if we chew properly, we then know that when we're full, because our fullness signals have time to kick in, and we absorb better from our food. And I've had clients come to see me for IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, that they've had for years, and just slowing down food and chewing properly makes a profound difference. You can have smoothies are a really good thing to get prepared as well. And you can add lots of goodness to smoothies, fruit, also vegetables. It's a nice thing if you just don't feel like you want anything solid in your digestive system. And you can add things like yogurt to add that protein, peanut butter, almond butter, that kind of thing. Soups are also great to freeze up in batches. Home cooked meals frozen in batches, and the kind of things you could take if you did have to stay in hospital, or just to have in your house as you come out of hospital. Oat biscuits, so either the savoury ones, or you can get nice oat biscuits that are not so high in sugar, dried fruit and nuts with some dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's really high in iron and magnesium, so it's actually really good for you. Vegetable sticks ready chopped up with some hummus. You could bake some things and then freeze them, like banana bread with lots of ground nuts in. Protein bars, there's some really nice protein bars that you can now buy that have got lots of nuts and seeds in, like the brand called Kind Trek, which are popping up in most supermarkets. And porridge, porridge is also really, really a great superfood as well. You can add lots of goodness in there too. So that's all from me for tonight. I hope that's been helpful for you. I've tried to kind of cover a broad range of things.